Welcome to the Real Academy, brought to you each Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by
the Resilience DoctHers,
Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor, best-selling authors, consultants, and speakers of Create and Educate LLC. Create and Educate LLC is an educational consultant and literary firm that provides professional development to schools and community. Their goal is to transform organizations with the REALL resilient framework used to increase their school report card grades 2 and 3 grade levels in 1 year. REALL stands for Respect, Excellence, Accountability, Literacy, and Leadership. This framework is used to coach leaders and teachers and build student efficacy while putting systems in place that aligns the work of the school improvement, making the process manageable. When the work is manageable, teachers and leaders don't stress out or burn out.
The Resilience DoctHers.
Alignment systems are designed to help schools evolve and grow, all while instituting protocols and processes designed to promote collaboration and collegiality. The implementation of the alignment framework prevents some of the most common problems in education, where leaders sometimes aren't sure where to start, or in our new age of educating, leaders need a trusted sounding board that allows them to be vulnerable and transparent, preventing loneliness at the top. The framework doesn't just help leaders, but also prevents teachers from burning out from too many initiatives and embracing teachers as they are the experts. Finally, the framework extends to the children, helping them get engaged in school and solving a nationwide problem. Alignment systems are frequently referred to as a key element of success in the improvement process. In the sport of rowing, all rowers must put their oars in the water, succinctly creating a system for their boat to reach maximum speed. So schools that want to improve are bringing in
the Resilience DoctHers
to teach them all about the alignment systems that must be in place for school improvement to be accomplished at high levels. The dynamic duo provides insights into educational topics through their international platform, which includes educators, parents, and community members as a way to support important entities that make communities thrive. This is their way to pay it forward and provide the support they needed through their platform. Take a look. People who work with
the Resilience
describe them as
DoctHers.
an excellent and inspiring group of leaders. They get into the weeds of work with leaders through their TrustMate Institute that you should contact them about today by filling out the contact form on their website.
It's Super Saturday, everyone. Welcome to episode 253 of the Real Academy, brought to you by Create and Educate with your very own Resilience DoctHers. I'm Dr. Sheikah Houston.
Good morning, everyone, and I'm Dr. Tammy Taylor, and today we're talking about one of the most important topics in education because it impacts behavior. And that is something that we all want to make sure is under control. It impacts engagement. It impacts attendance, relationships, and learning. Today's episode is what's really triggering that child, understanding students' states, triggers, and responses.
Absolutely, Tammy, and that you said a mouthful. It does impact all of those things, and it's very important. So if this is your first time tuning in, you may be wondering who are the Resilience DoctHers, and if you are one of our Real fam members, let us know in the comments like you do every week, what has kept you resilient in the work this week.
Yes, and we are really glad. If you're asking who we are, we want to let you know. We are best-selling authors, children's book authors, award-winning educators, speakers, and school improvement practitioners who transformed our schools after improving our report card ratings 2 and 3 levels in just a single year.
Absolutely. And that work was with our phenomenal staff members. And after we all completed that work, a lot of people started to ask, what did you do differently? And that led to the development of our REAL framework. And that's REAL with 2 L's that you see at the top of the pane and over both of our shoulders. And that acronym stands for respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership. So, as senior staff developers for Create and Educate, we help schools improve all the ways that Tammy talked about in that title that we're going to be helping you with, a lot dealing with culture. But one thing that we've learned that's very important in this process is that not every behavior or problem is a discipline problem. Sometimes it's a stress problem. Sometimes it's an emotional regulation problem. Sometimes it's a relationship issue. And sometimes it's a child responding to a trigger. So that's why we developed our unique approach to school improvement, that is through our Synergy Lab that you've heard us talking about. And it's really with self and team awareness. It gives schools and leaders that advantage. And so it strengthens self awareness, team awareness, generational awareness, and gives us insight into those emotional triggers.
Yes, and we are excited about that work because that work helps to make sure that children are getting what they need. So if you are one of those folks who wants to bring us in, as Sheikah said, please do, because this is in work that we enjoy, and this is very important work for children everywhere, because that is the point of what we do in education. And if you can't bring us in, just keep tuning in here with us on the Real Academy each Saturday morning, where we've impacted over 300,000 educators and approximately 7 million students through our free Fantastic Four professional development. And it starts off every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. with Principal Sean Hurd, our brother in this work. And then we follow yours truly, Sheikah and I, here in the Real Academy. And then at 11 a.m., the Leaders Mentor and the GOAT, all things leadership in the AP and New Principles Academy with Principal Kafele. And then this rounds out on what we call our Sensational Sunday with PGP's podcast with Dr. Marty Moreno and Principal Josh Tovar.
Absolutely. And we call ourselves the Fantastic Four. And so please like, share, subscribe, send the stars, make the comments, make the tags, do all of the things that the platforms do. We always need help building these algorithms, and we always say please and thank you. Normally, if we were live, we would be doing our shout outs, but we do have a few announcements that I would like to go over really quickly. We have been commemorating Juneteenth. So if you were not able to go to the Juneteenth celebration Chester's Facebook page or the YouTube page, we presented a documentary yesterday at 2. So it's still there, that it replays in both places. Sometimes people don't realize that Facebook, when it records, that you can replay. Some people asked me for the replay on yesterday, but please go back and watch it. Watch it with your family. My daughters and I pulled it up on the television on YouTube so we could make it a whole family experience. There is a discussion guide that goes along with the documentary. So we had a lot of rich discussion about what was seen in the documentary. So it's very informative. Tammy, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything. I know you watched it.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I'm a product of, we didn't own farmland, but my grandfather, it resonated so much because he too was a landowner, and that is just the most powerful part of finding that piece of your legacy. And that was the thing that I think stood out to me the most. We have to really make sure that we're passing those traditions, those explanations, and that information to down to our children, because if we don't do that, then they become a generation that has ignorance that leads them, and they will be persuaded to think that we've never been who we really are. And so I was very impressed. In fact, we went back and looked at it again, because I thought this really does need to be something that not just I see, but the next generation of us are also looking at. So maybe it'll spark an interest in those folks that come behind us to really want to find out what their heritage really means to them.
Absolutely. And there were some questions that my daughters had, and
I'm sure.
that resonated with me as well about the land, because my grandparents, when they talked about that great migration to the north, they were the ones from Blair, South Carolina, that moved to Cleveland, Ohio,
Mhm.
that kind of laid that path for everyone else to have a different start.
Yeah,
In Ohio. So that's how we get our roots in Cleveland, Ohio from that. But then they
yeah,
came back here, and my grandfather purchased 40 acres of land that my
yeah.
mom still owns. So,
Yeah, I love it. I thought it was really also unique too in um that whole migration thing, cuz like we landed in Buffalo,
mm,
and when the folks up there, like you don't even realize sometimes what got you to where you are in
hmm,
that space. So it's a very important part of creating that legacy for the next generations.
absolutely. Thank you for watching, and shout out to Principal Kafele. I know he logged on as well. And this is just a quick shout out to the Juneteenth Chester Committee. And today, Tammy and I will be in York, South Carolina. We're vendors there, and I'll also be serving on this panel. So we're still just continuing discussion of Juneteenth and the importance of commemorating Juneteenth. So lots of rich discussion will go about there, but we'll definitely be promoting Amir's Awakening, his amazing journey to ancient Egypt. And we are also still with WGCD with Parents Our First Teachers, that you can catch on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So we always give lots of great insights there as well. So thank you all for joining us, as Tammy stated. And now we're going to get started on the episode.
Yes, and before we do start, I do want to just take one moment to honor the legacy of a very important matriarch who we celebrated her life this week. Betty Stringfellow Graham. She's one of the remaining matriarchs in the um, Stringfellow family, and we want to just say what a wonderful life she lived, and how blessed I was to have known her. She's been an inspiration in my life, and we want to just again send condolences to the family, and let them know that we continue to lift them all up in prayer. But just a beautiful ceremony for a beautiful person, inside and out. So we want to just take this moment to honor the memory of Miss Betty Stringfellow Graham. So we're going to start this morning, though, as Sheikah said, with thinking about how many times have we heard that child is so disrespectful. These kids do not care. This is just a different breed of kids. These children always are causing commotion. Problems follow them. What in the world? How many times?
Probably too many times to count, Tammy. But if what if that behavior is actually a signal? And what if the behavior is actually communicating something we haven't really taken time to understand? So today we're going to be talking about understanding the state a child is in before responding to the behavior they're displaying. And so this is something that we're probably going to be calling real discipline. So we're going to get into that first point where student behavior is often a communication tool. So children communicate in different ways. We're all unique individuals. Sometimes, we say that we are unique and we have our own DNA, we have our own fingerprints. But when children come to school, what do we all want them to be? The same. We want everybody to be standard. We want everybody to walk in the same line and do all of the same things. And sometimes when you really think about what we want children to do, it is a little bit ridiculous. So children communicate in different ways. Some communicate through words, some with actions, some withdraw, some through defiance, and some through aggression. It depends on where they are at that moment.
They really do. And behavior often answers a question: what is this child trying to tell me that they may not have the words to express, instead of asking, what in the world is wrong with this kid? Because oftentimes, especially in smaller kids, they don't even know how to tell you what's wrong with them. So you really need to pay very careful attention to what behavior is saying to you as the adult. And then the second thing we want you to just be thinking about is that we also have to recognize the state that a student is in. Because before we can address behavior, we have to understand what state of mind the student is in. Because a student may be regulated and ready to learn, but a child can also be frustrated and overwhelmed. A child can be anxious and withdrawn, or, as Shika has said before, a child can be emotionally triggered and reacting to something that someone has said or done that has set them off.
Absolutely, Tammy. And the challenge is that many adults respond to a child's behavior without first identifying the child's state. So, you're giving them a consequence as if they are ready to move forward, or if you're wanting them to be in a state ready to learn and they're not there yet. And so you are responding to them as if they are. And so that's the problem. And you can't teach a child who feels unsafe the same way that you teach a child who feels secure. And that's the same way with adults. If we're not ready to move forward or we feel unsafe in a situation, we're going to automatically go into our safety mode or safety zone, and we're going to do whatever we feel like we need to do to make us feel safe and secure. So you can't reason with a child in an emotional survival mode the same way that you do with a child who is calm.
Exactly. You can't even talk to a child who's hungry. Think about adults who get hangry. They get hungry and angry, and you have to pay attention to what state the child is in.
Absolutely. And, as a teacher, I wanted to be solution driven. I didn't want to send my children out to the administrators to solve problems for me, problems that I was probably better equipped to solve because the children were with me all day. And so I knew the kids who came in with their stomach hurting every day. I knew what was wrong. Did you eat breakfast? No, ma'am. Crackers. I kept a pack of crackers in my drawer for that reason. You want some crackers? Yes, ma'am. And a drink. Here you go. Problem solved. You ain't have breakfast. Now we got some. Now your stomach's not hurting.
Exactly.
Sometimes you just gotta you have to ask the right questions, and you have to really truly be concerned about the well-being of the child.
You really do.
So let's talk about some of the common triggers that we see every day. And if we're not mentioning some that you see, put them in the comments. And public correction is one that an embarrassment that I really despise. When I have gone to some of the elementary classrooms and seen that little clip down chart, and then they have the children parade across the room in front of the whole class to clip themselves down. And I thought about what that would look like in a staff meeting. Dr. Taylor, you're talking during the meeting while I'm talking. Come up here and clip yourself down, please. Who in the world responds to public humiliation that is being done in front of the class? Now, I know that some people like that little clip down chart. I despise that. I think it is humiliating. I think that, it's not something that is good for children. So that's one thing that I think is a trigger for children. Also, academic frustration, peer conflict, unclear expectations, sudden changes in routines, feeling unheard, and then previous trauma that they have experienced.
And see, the thing is that the trigger itself may seem so small and minute to us, but I think what we sometimes forget is that we're responding to things through our experiences, but children are also responding to things through theirs. And so it could be something that does not even make sense to you. Like, you got upset because I called your name loudly, but you don't know. Does this child live in a situation where they're constantly yelled at and they think that anytime you elevate your voice that is a yell and so they react. You
Mhm.
have to be very very mindful again of what state children are in. And to that point, we also want you to know that we're not leaving you hanging. We want to provide you with some strategies for teachers and administrators because there are practical strategies for dealing with children and making sure that we are preserving their integrity, as Shika said, but also making sure that we are considering those things that are very um, off putting or insulting or embarrassing, as Shika said, to them. So, some practical strategies for teachers: you can start by noticing patterns before incidents occur. Are they coming in every morning, as Shika said, with a stomach empty and hurting? Build relationships before correcting. Make sure that the children know you care about them, because you start coming at them and they think you don't like them, you are in for the ride of your life. Provide choices whenever possible. Use calm tones, especially during the time that you're trying to de-escalate. Then you also have to teach using emotional vocabulary. Like, teach them how to use their words to help you to help them. Then create predictable outcomes. We also would suggest, as Shika said, public humiliation is never anything that a teacher intends. And I could promise you, as a first grade teacher, the clip down is not to embarrass the child. The clip down is a redirect. The way that some folks have tried to remedy that, you also get to clip up. You start in the middle, you could clip up, you could clip down. And that system is not one of embarrassment, but one of reminding us, okay, I need to pay careful attention to what's going on. But when you need to really discipline a child or you really need to address something, try pulling them to the side or taking them outside the door and having a conversation that lets them see that you want to preserve the integrity of your relationship, but you also intend not to demean them or demoralize them in front of their peers, because children are very sensitive, as are adults, because as Shika said, um, you're late coming in the staff meeting again. You never get to staff meeting on time, Dr. Houston. And that's going to be 10 minutes after everybody else is gone, you stay in here 10 minutes so that you can make up this time. But we want to just also say that when you are looking to make sure that children are receptive of what you're saying to them or what you're trying to help them with, start by making sure that they know that your relationship is tight.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to do any of those things when they don't think that you're for real with them.
Yep. And Tammy trying to sell me on the clip chart.
I'm not trying to
I ain't
sell
for the
you.
clip chart. I don't like
I'm
it.
just trying to make sure you understand that
Oh,
is
I
not
understand. It ain't good for
intended to
kids.
humiliate children.
I do not like it. Now, and one of the things when Tammy mentioned about teaching children that vocabulary, sometimes you have to give them sentence frames. A lot of times we act as if children know how to do things that we have not taught them how to do. We have to teach them how to do things. And so sentence frames a lot of times helps them with that. I've given lots of administrators some sentence frames to help children get back on a path that they need to be back on. So for administrators, we're not going to leave you out as well. Ask what happened, of course, and you always do this, because we have to provide due process. Ask what happened before assigning a consequence. And also remember that a consequence doesn't always have to be punishment. I think that we are conditioned to think that, but a consequence could be that you're sitting in here with me and the person who was offended, and we're having a reconciliation meeting. That is the consequence of the action. We're repairing the harm. It doesn't have to always be punishment. And if we look at our discipline behavior data, a lot of times when we are giving or providing these consequences as punishments, most of the time it is not rectifying or remedying the behavior that we didn't want to see. We're still seeing repeats of that same behavior because the punishment didn't teach them anything. And the sooner that we learn that, the better that we'll all be for making sure we're teaching the children. So then look at those patterns again across settings. I used to always look at my data, time of day. Was it just the teacher, not knowing how to respond to certain children? All of those things factored in when you're looking at patterns in your discipline data. And then you want to support your teachers with de-escalation strategies. We also have to teach the teachers who may not know how to de-escalate things. They may not have been taught. So you may have to have some sessions on teaching them how to do that. And then provide that tier 1 support before tier 3 responses. And that means that everyone is getting certain things at tier 1. And then help adults recognize their own triggers. And we got about 2 minutes left before we move on to this last point, which is how the Synergy Lab can help with this.
Yeah, well, before we move into that, and this is something that is just very quick that we really need to think about. And this just goes back to what Sheikah was saying about making sure that when you are talking to children, they are not triggered intentionally, because sometimes, and this is what you have to work with your teachers on, administrators. Teachers learn how to trigger kids to get them on out of there. So make sure they understand what an ethical issue that is. You know this child's triggers, and we don't want you pushing those buttons. And we just want you to understand, because when adults understand themselves better, they respond to kids better. When teachers understand each other better and teams are working together to understand each other, they can support students better. And when students understand themselves better, they learn how to regulate themselves better. So that's just what we are coming here with this morning. The power of awareness is very strong.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what the Synergy Lab does. It helps provide that awareness for self, for how I'll show up in a team, and how we show up together. So we hope that you've gathered something from the strategies that we've provided. If you need or are interested in bringing us in for the Synergy Lab, just reach out to us on our website. Join Principal Kafele next. He has a great panel lined up for everyone this Saturday. Join Josh and Dr. Marty Moreno on Sunday in the PGP podcast. And then right back here on Super Saturday, starting off with Principal Sean Hurt at 10 a.m. Yours truly, Create and Educate at 10:30, and Principal Kafele at 11. And we call it Super Saturday, and all four of us together are the Fantastic Four. So have a real amazing Super Saturday, and I will see those of you who are attending SCASA this coming week. I present on Tuesday with the other hearing officers, and Principal Kafele will be there presenting as well. So see you all at the beach.
Bye, guys. Have a good week.